come on. I got to get my energy up. Sometimes I'm fired up to do a show. Sometimes I got to work into it. Give me a minute. I'll be fine. Hey, listen. You don't roll out of bed every day ready to take on the world either now, do you? Let me just welcome new listeners to the Comparison Group podcast on this 30th day of August 2022. New listeners on Apple, on Spotify, on Pandora, and most recently, perhaps, people who use the Podcast Addict app. Downloads are way up over the past month, so either people are sharing and listening, or I'm being lied to keep me doing this. Either could be true. I don't know. I really have no way of knowing who is listening or why, which can be frustrating because you'd like to know if the audience is leaning more left, leaning more right, or, as I hoped and dreamed when I started this, an even mix. An even mix of center-left, center-right people. People who understand we don't all have to think alike. If I disagree with you or you disagree with me, it might just be because I'm not you and you're not me. It doesn't have to be because I'm trying to destroy democracy as we know it, or because I hate puppies and sunshine, or I want black people to go back to Africa. If black people go back to Africa, who are white kids going to imitate? We had better take the music down so I can explain to the new listeners what just happened there. What I just said, that's what we call a joke. Here, you may occasionally hear me tell a joke, even at the risk of someone being offended. Yep. Now, usually I'll tell a joke that might offend people because I have no idea what offends people anymore. I assume everything. So rather than trying to figure it out, if I think something might give you a chuckle, I'll say it. All right? So just so you know, keep an eye out for that in the future. What we call jokes that may offend you. Now, I'm trying to get better at this. I have no background in broadcasting or politics. I've explained what I try and do with this show. I refer to as the 3 I's: interesting, informative, and entertaining. Right? That's what I'm going for. From a perspective of someone who does not have an agenda, does not care if you agree or disagree, because this is about discussion, not debate. In a debate, you're trying to win an argument. You're trying to change minds. You're trying to convince me that your point of view is the correct point of view. I'm not. I like discussion because that's how you learn something. I'm all about learning. I have a lot of questions in this crazy country we got going on right now. But I also notice a lot of people have questions, and when they get the answer, they might not necessarily like the answer. They ask the question, but then you give them the answer, and they don't like the answer you gave them. Some people think if you don't give them the answer to the question they wanted or expected you to give, you must have given them the wrong answer. You can't ask someone a question, and when they give you an answer you weren't expecting, get angry at them. So that's the other thing I'll try and do, is anticipate some questions, or I'll even ask listeners questions, and I'll try and answer them. I'll try and give you my honest, without an agenda, fair and consistent answer to the question. If you don't like my answer to the question, if you think my answer to the question is incorrect, by all means, tell me. By all means, let me know. But don't get angry with me. Don't be nasty towards me. If I disagree with someone, as long as they're not hateful or racist or violent, why would I get angry at them? Just because they don't see things the way I do, who says I'm always right? I do the show this way because I realized I was becoming more and more frustrated that I couldn't find a political show that was either a left-leaning show or a right-leaning show. I couldn't find a moderate show. Just give up on that, trying to find a truly moderate show, in the middle show. But I couldn't find a left-leaning show or a right-leaning show where the host, the commentator, wasn't 100% convinced they were 100% right on every issue. That seemed to spill over into people on social media or people who run websites. I wonder, how can these people have so much confidence in their opinions? They have the confidence of a man on a nude beach with a penis like a baby's arm. If you're a man and you have a penis the size of a baby's arm, yeah, I get it. You walk around proudly and confidently. But I see people who don't have the intellectual equivalent of a penis like a baby's arm, but they talk like they do. People who've never been black saying, you know the trouble with black people? People who've never been a woman debating women's issues. People who've never run a business or been in charge of employees talking as if they run a Fortune 500 company. People who've never been doctors giving medical advice. People who have never been in a potentially life-threatening situation telling police officers what they should have done after the fact. This unwarranted confidence detaches us from reality. All of us. Makes us say and do crazy things, like storm the Capitol or burn books. Makes us lose compassion for people who died of COVID because they wouldn't take the vaccine. Did not taking the vaccine make them less human? Now, you can be angry at the people for using their platforms to lie and mislead about the vaccine, but rejoicing when those people die, not having empathy for the people who died because they believed the lies. Come on now. I remember the "it serves them right" tweets. I remember the COVID idiots hashtag on Twitter. Now, none of this is easy to hear, whether you were sharing the hashtag or you were hanging off the edge of the Capitol. But is it wrong? So as a rule of thumb on this show, I find the things that are tougher to hear usually have some truth to them. So you come here, you get that cold dose of uncomfortable truth. But hopefully you leave more informed, hopefully a little entertained, and then you go and listen to your other favorite media. That's all. All I ask, give it a try. Give it a few episodes. If you get up in the morning and you turn on Fox and Friends or Morning Joe, then you get in your car and you listen to your left-leaning or right-leaning program, then you get to work and you only talk to people who listen to the same thing you do, then you come home and you watch Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon or Anderson Cooper, and then you go to bed and you dream of Donald Trump naked building a wall or Joe Biden naked punching a billionaire in the nuts. Can you just squeeze in just a half hour of the Comparison Group podcast? Just a half hour a week somewhere. That's all I asked. And if you like it, share it. Share it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Text it, email it. Just copy and paste the link. Don't expect a lot of feedback, though. I should mention that. I don't even get a lot of feedback. So don't expect a lot of feedback from the people you share it with. I got to remember to tell that to people. Sometimes people tell me, I've been posting it to Facebook, but nobody ever says anything about it. They won't. Most people won't. But they'll listen. They'll listen. Just share it. They'll listen. Lastly, for the new listeners, I'm the Comparison Group guy. That's all you need to know. I'm not doing this to get famous. I truly have no clue why anyone would even want to be famous nowadays. I'm also not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this to get richer. I will not take any money. I repeat, I will not take any money for doing this podcast until someone gives it to me. And you have my word on that. I guess I should discuss the student loan debt cancellation hubbub. I don't really expect to be talking about that this week, but okay. It seems to have stirred up a lot of debate. So, first, let's listen to Joe Biden stumble through the announcement.
My campaign for president, I made a commitment. That would provide student debt relief. and I'm honoring that commitment today. Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans. In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000. Both of these targeted actions are for families who need it the most. Working and middle-class people hit especially hard during the pandemic, making under $125,000 a year. All this means people can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt, to get on top of their rent and their utilities, to finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business. And by the way, when this happens, the whole economy is better off. I hear it all the time. How do we pay for it? We pay for it by what we've done. Last year, we cut the deficit by more than $350 billion. This year, we're on track to cut it by more than $1.7 trillion by the end of this fiscal year, the single largest deficit reduction in a single year in the history of America. And the Inflation Reduction Act is going to cut it by another $300 billion over the next decade because Medicare will be paying less for prescription drugs, and over $1 trillion we added out for the next 2 decades. The point is this: there is plenty of deficit reduction to pay for the programs, cumulative deficit reduction to pay for the programs many times over. I will never apologize for helping Americans, working Americans middle class, especially not to the same folks who voted for a $2 trillion tax cut that mainly benefited the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations, that slowed the economy, didn't do a hell of a lot for economic growth, and wasn't paid for, and racked up this enormous deficit. Just as we've never apologized when the federal government forgave almost every single cent of over $700 billion in loans to hundreds of thousands of small businesses across America during the pandemic. No one complained that those loans caused inflation. A lot of these folks in small businesses are working in middle-class families. They needed help. It was the right thing to do. So the outrage over helping working people with student loans, I think, is just simply wrong, dead wrong.
All right, so listen, the guy's got an affliction with talking, all right? What do you want him to do? I don't talk all that much gooder myself, okay? Let's start with the paying for this with deficit reduction. And remind me, there are 3 things he discussed there in that press conference. I'm going to try and get to it if I have time. Remind me to try and get back to the 3rd thing, because if I start talking about it now, we're going to get distracted. But on the paying for this with deficit reduction, if you are spending money on one program instead of another program, you can't really pat yourself on the back for deficit reduction. And maybe it's just semantics, and maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, because this is one of those things I doubt myself on because it seems so obvious. If I'm broke and I'm in a ton of debt, as we all know the country is, and I tell the wife, hey, listen, I paid off the credit cards and reduced our monthly debt by $500. Now I'm going to go buy a car for $500 a month. Well, okay, but I can't still want credit for reducing our spending. I can maybe say, hey, I did not add to our monthly spending, but Biden seems to still want credit for deficit reduction that's no longer there. It's weird. The second point, everyone, and I do mean everyone on the left, had the same collective statement, which was, what about Trump's tax cuts? What about the forgiven PPP loans? Now, I swear, I apologize to my regular listeners for having to keep saying this, but people just keep doing it. They just keep asking the same questions. Why didn't Republicans complain about the cost of the Trump tax cuts and forgiven PPP loans? Because politicians are hypocrites and Republicans love tax cuts. For the love of all that's holy, can you please stop asking that question? I'm begging you. These are people who get paid a ton of money, people who are highly educated, asking the same question over and over and over. People who got 500,000 followers on Twitter. 500,000 followers on Twitter. You go through their tweets, and it's the same theme over and over. Well, what about when so-and-so did such and such? Well, can you imagine if so-and-so did so-and-so? Why don't the Democrats say this now? Why don't Republicans say this now? I've told you before, this drives me crazy. And it mainly drives me crazy out of jealousy because I sit there racking my brain for something clever or smart or original to say. Biden just tweeted a phone number. He tweeted out a phone number to text and tell your story of how the debt cancellation would affect you. And so I replied to his tweet, sorry if I text you late at night. I know you don't know the difference between a booty call and a butt dial. Now, you're telling me, tweeting to the President of the United States, you don't know the difference between a booty call and a butt dial isn't worthy of a single like, a single retweet? But I didn't get one, not one. But the tweets about the Republicans, that there had been PPP loans forgiven for Republicans, that gets like 900 gazillion likes. Pointing out for the 1,557 gabillionth time that Republicans are hypocrites gets a like every time. Every time you do it, it gets a like. What's the use? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So we're going to pay for this program through deficit reduction, and then it's going to do great things, provide a lot of relief for millions of people, middle-class people, working people, so forth and so on. Now, I care about results. I don't care if it's Republican legislation or ideas or if it's Democratic legislation or ideas. I care about results, as I'm sure most of us would say we do. So that's how I look at all ideas, all policies, all programs, all legislation. Will it get the results desired? The answer pretty much every single time is, who the heck knows? Who knows? How can Democrats be so sure this is fantastic? This is wonderful. This is going to help so many people. And how can Republicans be so convinced this is the worst bill ever, the worst idea ever, the worst policy ever? Everything is the worst ever. And since inflation is the buzzword right now, everything is going to raise inflation. If Joe Biden farts, it's going to raise inflation. So when it comes to results, let's discuss it in the only way you really can right now, with opinions. I'll give my opinions on how this all came about and why I think Biden did it, whether or not it makes sense, why some people may be opposed to it. And in hearing my opinions, maybe you say, that was interesting. I didn't look at it that way, but I disagree. Or, I was pretty much thinking the same thing. I agree. All without any of us calling each other a threat to democracy. First, how this came about, in my opinion. A couple of months ago, some polls were coming out that I think were real eye-openers to Democrats. Things were not looking good. Up to that point, Democrats had been focused on this big, bold agenda, driven mainly by progressives. Now, it's been said recently, after this whole student loan cancellation thing happened and the other things that have happened in the recent weeks, it's been said that Biden and the Democrats are finally taking the fight to the Republicans. I humbly disagree. Democrats didn't start fighting Republicans. They stopped fighting each other. Now, I'm not here to toot my own horn, but this is what I said on this podcast back in November of 2021. Give a listen. But the point I want to make is this. When the left points out or says the other side, the right is extreme, they're right. They're absolutely 100% correct. And you know what? There's no excuse for Democrats ever to lose a swing state, particularly one like Virginia. All the Democrats had to do after Joe Biden was elected, not be extreme. The Republican Party has gotten so incredibly extreme behind Donald Trump. All the Democratic Party had to do was just be normal. Don't be crazy. Don't be extreme. And what did you do? You went to the extreme. You said, let's spend 80 gazillion trillion dollars. And let's do it on social programs that half the country hates. That's what you did. You went to the extreme. All you had to do was be normal and govern soundly, not be transformative. Pass the infrastructure bill that everyone wanted. Extend the child care tax credit. Pass a bill for universal pre-K. I'm for that. Pass a bill that pays for vision and dental for seniors. And that's it. Not this huge, grand, transformative bill that can be picked apart and criticized. Smaller, consistent bills coming out of Congress that can be celebrated and pointed to as progress. Small, consistent progress out of their government. That's all people really want. Small, consistent progress. Just get me wins. Just get wins every 3 months. That's all. I don't need you blowing out teams every week. Just small, consistent wins. And you would be just fine. So that's what I said on this podcast back in November of 2021. After Democrats had lost the governor's race in Virginia and they had a close call in the governor's race in New Jersey. Much closer than what it should have been in New Jersey. And I came on the podcast and I said, Democrats, if you want to flip this around, you got to get away from this big, bold agenda. 2 weeks later, the Democrats passed the infrastructure bill that I was screaming, you got to pass that infrastructure bill. Now, did they pass the infrastructure bill because I said so on this little tiny podcast? Of course they did. Of course they did. But the point that I want to make is all of the people who were screaming about this big, bold agenda, and we got to pass this big, bold agenda, and they were holding up pretty much anything Biden wanted to do because they wanted this big, bold agenda, are now walking around like this was our strategy all along. Walking around like they were saying back in November of 2021 what I was saying. But they weren't. They weren't. They were saying the opposite. They were killing Joe Manchin. Killing Joe Manchin. And I said, would you please stop with the Joe Manchin bashing? I've been saying it for a year and a half. And now all these people that I try and share my show with, I try and get them to comment on the show. I try and get them to give the show a listen. Nothing. You know why? Because they were all saying it back in November of 2021. They were saying the wrong thing. And now they're figuring out, oh yeah, small, consistent wins. The only person saying it back then that I heard, and I don't want to be one of those guys who says, if I didn't hear it, nobody said it. I'm sure there were plenty of other people saying the same thing. But the only person I heard saying the same thing at the time was Van Jones, former Obama official. Van Jones said almost the identical thing on CNN after I said it. Democrats, just get small wins. And so they passed the infrastructure bill, and the whole tone changed. Oh, it was a celebration. Oh, we passed the infrastructure bill. Then they went right back to the infighting. Right back to it. Then it became, okay, well, we passed that infrastructure bill. You promised us. Now we're going to pass Build Back Better. You promised us. They went right back to the infighting. Biden's poll numbers plummeted. And as I said, a month or so ago, his polls were in the toilet. And they were talking about replacing him in 2024. And so what I think happened is somebody, whether it was Biden or somebody else, got the progressives in the room and said, this is not about you. I picture Joe Biden getting in a room and throwing a chair across, throwing a pencil across the room and saying, this is not about you. This is not about you, Bernie Sanders. This is not about you, Alexandria. I hide my Starbucks in a Dunkin' Donuts cup, Ocasio-Cortez. This is not about you, Cori Bush. This is not about the progressive agenda and what you want. This is about the country. This is about us holding on to Congress. Yeah, but you screwed us. You screwed us on Build Back Better. The Inflation Reduction Act is only 10% of what we wanted in Build Back Better. It's not about you. It's not about what you want. It's about holding on to Congress. And now you've seen this wave of small wins for Joe Biden over the past couple of months. And that's what I think brought about the latest win, the debt cancellation. Sure, it's a promise he made during the campaign. It probably wasn't a promise he really planned on keeping. He made plenty of other promises. But this was something he could do. And so he did it. Is it pandering? Yeah, sure. Is it buying votes? Yeah, sure, if you want to look at it that way. Don't run from that, Democrats. I don't know why Democrats get so offended when people say, he's pandering to the youth. He's buying votes. You're doggone right he is. That's smart. That's not dumb. That's smart. That's not corrupt. That's being a politician. That's what he's supposed to do. You make a promise on the campaign trail, and then when you get in office, you deliver on that promise. That's what you do. What, Republicans don't do that? Come on. Every time there's an election, there's a Republican politician running to a black church or running to a homeless shelter to wash dishes, hand out bags of food. You never see him after the election is over. So don't run from that, Democrats. Say you're doggone right he's pandering to us. He better be pandering to us if he wants to get reelected. That's all. You see, I told you I'd work myself up into this. So Democrats didn't start fighting Republicans. They stopped fighting each other. Now, let's get to the last thing. I got to hurry up here. Does it make sense? Will it work? Maybe, maybe not. If you listen long enough to this podcast, you'll realize there's one thing I love, and it's consistency. I love consistency. And so I have consistency when it comes to what I believe makes a person a success. 4 things: talent, knowledge, hard work, and luck. Talent, knowledge, hard work, and luck. I believe no policy, whether it's a Republican policy or a Democratic policy, can replace those 4 things. They can certainly help. Public policy can certainly help. It can provide you with some knowledge, but it can't make you talented in a particular field if you're not talented. Public policy can give you a leg up and open some doors for you, but it can't make you a hard worker. So will this policy work as intended? I don't know. According to the Biden administration, the stated goal here is this will allow people to start a business, buy a home, start a family. Let's listen to that again.
All this means people can finally crawl out from under that mountain of debt, to get on top of their rent and their utilities, to finally think about buying a home or starting a family or starting a business.
I play it again for you because it's important. We can't ignore that that's what Joe Biden is telling us should come out of this program. Now, do me a favor. Do not start a family based on saving $100 a month on a student loan payment. Please, don't do that. I assure you that's not enough money. So it's impossible to know. There are so many variables. It would be intellectually dishonest to say for certain what the benefit or harm this policy will do. It's not like the infrastructure bill that we can say, that's going to provide some positive results for our country and our economy. Even if it doesn't function perfectly, the outcome in the long run will be good. Now, will people take the money they save on student loans and pump it back into the economy? Or will they buy cryptocurrency? We don't know. Do businesses always do what we want them to do with tax cuts? No. But for all the talk of the disastrous tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, that supposedly didn't do anything for the economy, Joe Biden and the Democrats ain't trying to repeal them. They're nibbling at them a bit. A 15% minimum tax here, a tax on stock buybacks there, a carried interest loophole thing here. But politically, they aren't trying to undo those tax cuts. Which brings me to my last point. Do people really mean what they say? Do politicians really mean what they say? Or is everything they're saying now just based on politics? There are people, if they're still listening, who do not know really what to make of what I'm saying. They don't know if they agree or disagree, which would be fine if not for the fact the reason some of these people don't know if they agree or disagree is because they don't know if I'm a Republican or a Democrat. They don't know if I'm black or white. They don't know if I'm a male or a female. Well, maybe they know that. But what does any of that matter? Does what I'm saying make sense? Does it give you food for thought? Does it make you think a little differently? If not, it's because we've taken on the characteristics of a politician. which can't be a good thing. But we have. We talk like politicians. We got to go bold. We're in a battle for the soul of the country. We argue like politicians. We get dug into our positions like politicians. And we get confused by a political show that does not appear to be telling me I'm right. How the heck can I sit here and tell you you're correct about what you think, and I don't even know if I'm correct about what I think? I could be on this podcast 3 months from now telling you, hey, this is what I was wrong about 3 months ago. Because that's what I do. Every now and then I'll do a show that says, hey, this is what I got wrong. But every other politician, or I should say every politician, every political show, they just keep on keeping on, never going back and reviewing the policies they put in place or the things that they said. They just keep on keeping on. So we shouldn't behave like that. We shouldn't behave like politicians when we talk to one another. Just keep on keeping on, never reviewing, never changing our opinions, never taking in new information, never doubting ourselves. Now, my initial, immediate assessment on the debt cancellation was, man, they just adjusted employment numbers way up, and they're crowing about how low unemployment is. I saw a story that said people are losing their jobs, not quitting, losing their jobs, and immediately getting new ones for more money. I see there's an app out there to help people cancel subscriptions to things maybe they forgot they were paying for. So if someone forgot they were paying $30 a month to the Wine of the Month Club, and they just thought the wine was showing up at their front door for free, they got to now get an app to help them cancel the subscription that they've been paying for, they forgot they were paying for. How much money do these people have that they forgot they were paying for stuff? How many subscriptions could somebody possibly have that they need help canceling them? I tell you, I know where every dime I spend a month goes. I'll tell you that. So my initial reaction was, do we really need to do this? Are people really struggling as much as they say they're struggling? And getting back to Joe Biden and what he said in that press conference, he named a bunch of things that they were also going to do that seemed like things they should have been doing or could just do that alone, like targeting it more towards people who go into public service, forgiving the debt for people who go into public service, like teachers or police officers or firemen, veterans. He talked about how veterans can be deployed on active duty and still not be able to defer their student loans. That doesn't make sense to me. So fix that. Make sure people are informed about forbearances or deferments on their student loans. Fix that. Apparently, people who declare bankruptcy can't, or that doesn't alleviate student loans. So if a business declares bankruptcy, they get their debt forgiven, but someone who declares bankruptcy can't get a student loan forgiven. Fix that. There are maybe people who went to school, took out a loan, but couldn't complete it because they had a family emergency or they had some sort of medical emergency. They shouldn't be saddled with that debt for the rest of their lives. I recognize that, so fix that. As one listener wrote to me, some people don't even want to take out these loans. They're ashamed to have to take out these loans, but they're desperate for their children to go to college. And how else can their children go to college without taking out these loans because it's so expensive to go to college? Fix that. That's my non-political answer. Goes both ways, sees it from both sides. This show is not about finding common ground. We can't all stand on the same ground. I don't want you that close to me. It's about a better understanding of why I may be standing on the ground I'm standing on and why you may be standing on the ground you're standing on. Because our positions on issues depends on our positions in life. We're not always going to see eye to eye, but it's okay. Even on hard issues, not the easy ones, because people agree with that right away. Oh, yeah, it's okay to not see eye to eye. No, I'm talking about even on the hard issues. It's okay not to see eye to eye on things like abortion, on things like guns, on things like Trump. As long as it's respectful, as long as it's with an understanding, I'm not trying to change your mind or get you to agree with me. I just want to learn. I want to understand what I don't know. And if I never understand why a reasonable, rational, nonviolent person supports Donald Trump, that's okay. Doesn't make that person less human. If I was a single man and someone told me Zendaya Wanted to date me? The only thing is, she's a rabid Trump supporter. Guess who would be dating Zendaya? You got it. The host of the Comparison Group podcast. And he very much appreciates you listening. But now comes the time to dance. You know what time it is. Come on, watch me. Watch me go. Oh, hey, before I forget. I mean, not before I forget. I don't want to forget. Thank you for the comments from last show. But I mentioned the VFW.org to you. VFW.org. V as in victory. F as in philosophy. W as in Wichita. You can go to the website, VFW.org, find a post, donate. Do not go there and hang out like you've been fighting terrorists. Don't do that. If they invite you in, fine. But don't show up at the VFW post like you're a veteran. That wasn't my intention in telling you to go to the post. You heard him. Want to be starting something? Go there, see if they need anything. I talked to some guys, they'll take, donations. There's no problem with that. But there are guys who go and maybe pick up the older veterans and give them a ride to the post. Or there are guys who will bring food to veterans who can't get out of the house. There are guys who prepare dinner on holidays for the veterans or prepare a cookout on July 4th. Guys who provide them with dinner on Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like that. All right, you get what I'm saying? Don't try and make yourself out to be a veteran. They're not looking for that. Thanks for listening. Show ran a little bit long, longer than I wanted it to. Try and keep these shows around 30 to 35 minutes, typically. But thanks for hanging in there with me if you did. If you're first time, I sure do hope you'll come back. I really do. For my regular listeners, I thank you again, as always, for investing your time. Podcasting, it ain't like YouTube. It ain't like Twitter. It's an investment in time. And so I truly do appreciate the people who invest their time. I really, really appreciate the people who share the show. Again, you can go to any of the podcasting platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Pandora. Just click on the show, copy the link, and paste it anywhere that you can think of if you want to share it. When's he going to get to the Mama Kusa? That ain't it. Also, go to the podcasting platforms and follow. If you could follow me, I would greatly appreciate it. Gets me noticed there, moves me up in the charts. And you can rate the show there. Give me that 5-star rating. I really don't accept anything lower than a 5-star rating. Unless you feel strongly about it. But I don't know why you would. It's a free show. That's like going and getting a little sample of meat on a toothpick and complaining about it. What are you complaining about? It's free. So give me the 5-star rating. Follow the show. And the show will come to you. You'll get notifications. A new show's available. And there you have it. I'm trying to get to the Mama Say Mama Kusasa. There it is. That made the show run really long waiting for that. I'll see you next time.